أهلا وسهلا بكم مشاهدينا إلى هذا اللقاء الخاص مع منسق مجلس الأمن القومي للاتصالات الاستراتيجية في البيت الأبيض السيد جون كيربي. Mr. Kirby, thanks for being with us.
I'm happy to do this. Thank you.
Thanks. I know your schedule is very tight and I appreciate that. I'll start with what the President said in a press conference on the first leg when he was asked about the Middle East, and he said, we made a mistake from backing away from our influence in the Middle East. Also, Mr. Sullivan and senior administration officials said, we don't want to have a vacuum here that can be filled by others. Were you able to do at least the first step to regain this influence here during this visit?
We believe that this visit is an important step that we're taking to make it clear, and you'll hear this more from the President today, later at the GCC, that to outline very specifically the Biden strategy for the Middle East, how America will re-engage and revitalize our partnerships here in the Middle East. And it starts with just showing up. It starts with actually coming here and having discussions bilaterally. The President will have 3 bilateral meetings today with UAE, with Egypt, and with Iraq, in addition to his consultations inside the GCC. And of course, last night he met bilaterally with Saudi leaders, but also multilaterally. And that's what the GCC is all about. The President's very interested in making sure that we make it clear to the people who live here that the United States takes seriously our security commitments, our national interests, our multinational interests here in the region, and that we're going to continue to look for ways to deepen those methods of cooperation. He knows that if we just were to walk away, countries like China, countries like Russia would try to fill that vacuum. You're already starting to see them trying to improve their influence in this part of the world. And the President believes strongly that America has a place, has a leadership role here to play, and we're going to play it.
You mentioned that showing up is a good step, but also we know that relation, especially with Saudi Arabia, had a challenging time. So what steps are you taking, if you can mention the tangible steps that you are planning to take to at least build the trust again between the two countries?
A big part of building that trust was, in fact, coming here to have these discussions. And look, trust is a two-way street, and there's no question that the relationship with Saudi Arabia was reoriented. It was recalibrated under this administration. But there are still strategic issues that matter to both of us, including human rights, by the way, and the President was very clear about that yesterday, but also on the security front, the economic front, energy security, food security. The President welcomes the Saudi efforts to continue the ceasefire in Yemen. That's now in its 15th week. And Saudi contributions to the infrastructure and investment program that President Biden announced at the G7 a couple of weeks ago. Saudi's willing to contribute to that. I mean, so there's a multifaceted set of results that have already come out of this trip, and we'll see what comes out, when it's over.
How was the meeting with the Crown Prince?
The meeting with the Crown Prince was constructive, I'll put it that way. It was frank, it was candid. President Biden talked about that last night after the meeting himself. There were things to say that needed to be said. There were also things to do that needed to be done, including working on security and economic deliverables for the people of the region, but also, quite frankly, for people around the world.
Some people say that you are here only for oil. First, did you ask them to for more supplies, and what did you hear from them? And how do you respond to the people who argue that this relation, the Saudis are not saying that, and especially the Saudi ambassador in DC has an op-ed saying that security, I mean, this concept is not valid anymore, but how do you respond to that? And did you ask for more oil?
Energy security clearly came up in the discussions with the Crown Prince and the Saudi leadership team last night. It will obviously be on the agenda today at the GCC. What the United States wants to do, as we've said we want to do, is help stabilize the global oil market. One way to help stabilize the oil market is to increase supply. Now, the president can't speak for OPEC, but as he said last night, he's hopeful that in the next couple of weeks or so, we may see some announcements coming out that lead to an improved stabilization of the market. Price of oil is around $100 right now per barrel, and gas prices are starting to go down. Not enough, but they're starting to go down. And so what we're looking for is a multi-tiered ways of trying to stabilize the market to help bring those pressures and those costs down. Domestically, the president is asking our Congress to repeal or grant a holiday for the gas tax, as well as having some states do that. He has released $1 million a day throughout the summer from our strategic reserve, again, to help stabilize the market. And we are on track, the United States. We are on track this year to produce more oil than we've done in many years in the past, and the same for next year. So the president understands it's a global market. There's things he can do, and he's doing that, including granting more drilling licenses and permits for oil and gas companies domestically in the United States on federal land. But he also knows that there's things global leaders can do as well. And again, as he said last night, he's hopeful that OPEC will be able to take another look at this and perhaps improve the amount of supply.
I want to go back to the security concerns and responding to Saudi Arabia security concerns. In a briefing in the morning, I asked a senior administration official, and he mentioned the idea of air defense integration, and also the Saudis would command a task force under the CENTCOM. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
The Saudi Navy has been a key partner in the Gulf region for a long time. When I was a young naval officer myself many years ago, I remember going to sea with Saudi sailors and Saudi ships. And this summer they will take command of a task force, a coalition task force in the Gulf region, which is a significant move and a significant effort. Obviously, we're very grateful for that, for their willingness to take that leadership on, because it's a multinational task force designed with improving our maritime security and interdiction capabilities in the Gulf particularly. So it's not a small initiative that they're taking. It's not going to be a small task, but it's just another example of the key partnership that they represent in this region, and the key capabilities now we're talking maritime capabilities, that they continue to provide. On the air and missile defense, I mean, we've been working on this now for quite some time. We believe that it's important to look for opportunities to better improve air and missile defense in the region, make it more integrated. There are significant capabilities in this part of the world. Many nations, including Saudi Arabia, have sophisticated air and missile defense capabilities. And what we're interested in doing is exploring opportunities to integrate those efforts as best we can. Now, these are sovereign decisions, and the countries have to decide for themselves whether they're going to want to do that or not. But we think it's a conversation worth having, because we know, just in our own military, the more you integrate your capabilities, the more you network them, the more you operate and exercise them together, the more effective they'll be. And there's a reason for it. I mean, there's a compelling urgency to this, given the increasing ballistic missile capabilities that Iran continues to field and to test and to improve, as well as their increasing reliance in production and use of UAVs, of drones, to actually, deliver kinetic effects to cause attacks. So I think you're seeing many nations in the region kind of coalesce around this growing threat in air and missile defense, and we'll see where it goes.
Speaking on Iran, I want to ask a question. At what point are you going, the U.S. will walk away from the negotiations on the Iran deal?
We've not only not walked away from the negotiations, we've been energetically trying to move them forward, and they are basically complete now. And there is a deal on the table. And the onus is now on Iran to take that deal and to come into compliance with the JCPOA.
But you're still waiting for them. I mean, do you think that the deal is still valid? I mean,
it's up to the Iranians now to decide whether they want to take this deal that's on the table. We believe it's in the best interest of Iran. It's in the best interest of our partners here in the Gulf region. It's certainly in our best interest. So those negotiations are virtually complete. Now, how long will it take for Iran to make a decision, or how long will we want to continue to hold out that negotiated settlement as an option? I don't want to put a date on the calendar. I don't think that would be wise. You heard the president say just the other day, we're not going to wait forever. The negotiations are pretty well done. There's a deal. It's now up to Iran to make a decision. And short of that, short of them coming into compliance, short of them making a decision to enter the deal, then we're going to have to continue to explore our options. And one of those is going to be to work with allies and partners, as we have, to increase the pressure on Iran.
I know 10 minutes are not enough for an interview, but I have one last question. I know the visit is not over, but if we want to characterize this visit as successful or not successful, how we can characterize it?
Look, you're right. It's not over. The meetings are still ongoing, but the president has already come away thinking that this was a trip well worth his time, well worth the effort for the American people and for our allies and partners here in the Gulf region. I mean, just think about, you've got Saudi Arabia opening up their airspace to all civilian aircraft. That's a huge development. That is a significant move. We're now going to be able to remove peacekeepers from the Tehran Islands in the Red Sea. They've been there since 1978. So these are important steps towards a deeper integration here in the region, which is really what President Biden wants to see, a stronger integration of nations here together, cooperating together. You saw from today in the GCC, the president will announce additional funding for food security, economic security, investment in the region, and other nations will likewise make similar moves. So, I mean, already there's even though the meetings aren't done, you're seeing a different sense of confidence and cooperation here in this part of the world that you just haven't seen much recently. So, there's new partnerships being formed. There are old partnerships that are being improved and strengthened. And there is terrific energy being applied to new forms of energy, to moving economies towards a transition to clean energy. And that's something that here in Saudi Arabia is very important to the government, because they all know, and we all know, the importance of climate change. And climate change will absolutely be on the agenda today. And there's no way any one nation is going to be able to do everything that needs to be done for climate change. It has to be a global effort. And we're seeing a lot of energy in that direction here, too. So these are important times, and quite frankly, they're exciting times. And I know that the president will be leaving here glad that he made this trip. Grateful for the conversations that he's been able to have and the progress that we're all looking forward to.
NSC Coordinator for Strategic Communication, Mr. John Kirby, thanks for being with us and for sitting down with us.
My pleasure.
I appreciate that. شكرا مشاهدينا على حسن المتابعة.